What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, back for another episode. I'm kind of a storyteller, kind of what I do. It's kind of what this channel has become, at least most recently. Um, Diaries of a Drug Addict. You know, 99.9% of the people that look at me would never think that I would have the kind of history that I have with drugs, and not just drugs, but various kinds of drugs. And I go through a lot of that on this channel. And I think my reason for doing that is just to let people out there know that you are going to come out on the other side of this. You know, I'm a 47-year-old man now. A lot of the heavy drug use that I experienced was in my 20s and in my 30s. But, you know, I had to go through that to get to where I'm at now. Now, do I live this perfect existence, free, completely free of all substances at this point in my life? No, I don't. But I will say I have a much, 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 much healthier life balance than I used to. I do use a little bit of kratom daily, but I also exercise. I also eat really healthy. I also work a career, a full-time job. I'm a parent to two children. I'm a husband. I take care of my home. I take care of my business. And, you know, this period of time that I'm telling you guys about in my 20s and my 30s, especially, where I, really struggled with drug addiction. I was not taking care of these things. I was struggling to take care of these basic things and basic, life tasks and necessities that people have. And so I'm just kind of here as an encouragement to those people who have experiences with drug addictions, and to kind of tell my story. And a lot of people can relate to the stories. A lot of my stories resonate with you guys out there because, a lot of the things I talk about on this channel would be embarrassing, too embarrassing for most people to talk about. And as you know, as drug addicts, a lot of us, most of us, I would say, if not all of us, have stories and instances, things that we've done in our lives, not who we are, but things that we've done in our lives that are quite shameful, quite embarrassing. And a lot of us are carrying around a large amount of shame and guilt associated with those things that we've done. And I'm here to tell you, you can leave that thing behind, and you can move on knowing that there is light on the other side, and you can make amends for things that have gone south as a result of your drug use in the past. So I'm going to continue off where I was yesterday. I'm going to try to do a quick recap without necessarily going into a very lengthy discussion about what I talked about yesterday. If you want to hear, in any more detail, my story, you're going to have to go back and watch previous videos, prior videos, to kind of, get yourself up to speed. Because I tend to make my videos really long. Most of my videos are 25, 30 minutes because I have trouble. I'm a storyteller. I have trouble fitting all of that information. Sometimes these stories are spanning over months and years at a time. It's hard to fit all that into 30 minutes. And like I said, I don't edit these videos because if you are looking for some inspiration and you're a drug addict and you want to hear stories of someone who has been through a lot of what you've been through, you're not looking for cool edits, cool transitions. You don't want me to get on here and do some crazy workout video and have all these cool transitions and music playing in the background. Now, I can do that, and I have quite a lot of experience doing editing, in fact, but I just don't on here. And I've decided not to. And I think the reason I don't do that is because I want you to know I'm a real guy. I'm not some editing program. I'm no set of music, video, images, and transitions. I'm a real guy living with a drug addiction, and who has experienced all of the things that I talk about on this channel. So when we left off yesterday, I was discussing how I had an inguinal groin injury or hernia repair that happened when I was a child. And when I was about 28, 29 years old, I went to start seeing doctors about this because I started having some acute pain in that area of my body. Now, mind you, at this point, I'm already addicted to narcotics by virtue of stealing my parents' Darvocets. I know. It's a horrible thing. I'm not proud of it by any stretch, but hey, this is the good, the bad, the ugly. Mostly the ugly of the type of things that, people who are heavily addicted to opiates were doing. And it's a lot of things that you guys have expressed to me that you did as well. But it's one of those things that people just don't talk about because it's shameful. You feel guilty about it because you love your parents, you love your family, and the fact that you ever stole anything from anyone and were dishonest to anybody about anything is quite shameful, but that's, again, what we've done. It's not who we are as people. It's not who we are in our hearts, and I'm quite a different person now. But anyway, so I talked about the fact that after seeing doctor after doctor after doctor and getting multiple tests done, no one could find why I was having this acute pain in my groin area of my body. I was succumbing to panic attacks, anxiety, depression as a result of this, because this was a chronic issue that was lasting, 6, 8, 10 months. I think it lasted in all total of close to a year. Well, finally, about the 4th or 5th doctor that I saw, it was well documented at that point that I'd seen many physicians about this, and nobody really had an answer other than, well, maybe there's a nerve entrapped in there because you've obviously got some scar tissue. You have a pretty sizable scar from where you had the hernia repair. The only way to really fix that is to maybe potentially do what's called a groin exploration surgery, where we have a surgeon go in there and maybe clear out some of that scar tissue, and then they can reinforce the muscle with mesh. And then what happens is they put this mesh in there to kind of secure the area where the hernia came through to protect it. And then what happens is the muscle intertwines and kind of weaves in and out of that mesh film that they put in there, and then the muscle eventually grows over top of it, and then you have a strong, solid connection of muscle there with mesh up underneath it, and that protects you in the event of lifting weights or straining for any reasons that you won't get a hernia in the future. So this was presented to me as a possibility, which I was absolutely addicted to pain medication at this time, but the issue that I was having was a real thing. I did want pain medication to feed my addiction because I had two things going on. I was addicted to pain medication, right? I needed that pain medication not only to help hide the pain and the symptoms of the pain, but I also needed it to be happy at that point, because I was at a point where I was addicted enough to where when I didn't take it, I was struggling. I was going through some withdrawals because I'd been taking it, for a while, for a good period of time. And then on the flip side of that same coin, I had this very, very real physical issue where I was in pain from the moment I opened my eyes in the morning until I shut my eyes and slept at night. I was in constant acute pain, and nobody could tell me what was going on. So eventually this doctor gave me a couple of prescriptions of OxyContin. Then they called a pain management clinic. And some of you may know this, but a regular physician does not like to oversee, pain management. They will send you to a specific pain management clinic that will oversee every bit of narcotics that you are taking on board, and they will monitor that via random drug testing, blood tests, things like that, to make sure that you're only taking what they're giving you and that you're not addicted, right? Let me just, addicted, right? And so I go to this pain management clinic. They start giving me Vicodins, whatever, and the Vicodins were working, pretty well. They didn't completely take the pain away, but of course, me being the addict that I wanted something as strong as I could get it, strong as I could get it, strong as I can get it. And although hesitant, I started off on like the 500 or just the regular fives Vicodins, the smallest or the lowest dosage of Vicodin that there is, and then they bumped me up to the 7.5s when I complained I was still having pain. They then bumped me up to the 10 milligram Vicodin, and they were very hesitant to take me from the Vicodin to the Percocet. But after a couple of months, I kept pushing for it and kept saying, hey, it's not helping, it's not helping. And it was helping. It wasn't completely taking the pain away, but some of this was just me being mentally weak and being completely dependent upon these narcotics at this point. Eventually, I get the doctor at the pain management clinic to agree to write me for the 5 milligram Percocets. So at this point, I'm getting, I think it's roughly around 90 5 milligram Percocets per month, right? So it's like something like 3 a day or something like that. And they were telling me I could break them in half, do like 3 doses a day, maybe, break one of them in half if I needed to and just take them as needed sort of thing, which for me, I needed it more than 3 times a day. I was hooked on these things, So obviously it was no time at all before I was like, yes, I've got a full prescription. But then the very first month, I recall at the pain clinic, the very first month that I got the prescription, I was already out of them, and I ran out probably within 2 to 3 weeks at this time of the medication. Well, then at that point, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You've been taking something like Percocet or oxycodone for a given period of time, and you go to abruptly stop taking them, you're going to have some problems with coming off of them, with withdrawals and such. And I was. So what I was doing was I was getting these, and then when I would use them up, I was either going and stealing more of my parents' medications, which at this point, I think they had discontinued Darvocet at this point, and they were getting, stronger things like some Vicodins and stuff like that. And my dad actually had a prescription for oxycodones. So at this point, I was taking all of my prescription, blowing through all of my prescription in just a couple of weeks. And then for the other 2 weeks of the month, I was getting them on the street or either taking them from my parents. One of the two. I know it's fucked up. I haven't done this in years, but this is the ugly part. We talked about the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is the bad and the ugly part of being a drug addict to narcotics. And so it did this for a while. At some point, I met with another doctor, and I agreed to actually do the groin exploration surgery to see if I could just somehow get rid of the pain altogether, right? And this was kind of a last option, because the problem is with going in and doing something like this, anytime you get cut open, it can actually cause more problems. So what they were concerned about is I'm having this pain in this area, and then I go in there and get a surgery in that same area, and then it's going to create more scar tissue, and then the problem's not going to go away, and then I could possibly have more pain, right? So this one surgeon had a good idea that he was going to go in there, and he said that there's a nerve in there, and I do not remember what the nerve is called, but there is a nerve in there where he could go in, clear out any scar tissue that he sees, and then he could cut the nerve that actually sends pain signals to that area. It wouldn't affect any other part of my body. It wouldn't affect any of my, male functioning down here or anything like that. And he thought that was a great idea. I thought, cool, that's awesome. Let me do that. And it's funny because I remember thinking to myself before I had this surgery, damn, what am I going to do if it works? Because, I wanted it to work because I didn't want to be in pain anymore. But on the flip side of the coin, if it worked and I wasn't in pain anymore, then I wouldn't have any justification for continuing to take these heavy narcotics on a daily basis, right? And I knew that the pain clinic and other doctors were going to be very hesitant to continue giving me these narcotics on a regular basis if I had had this surgery and then was admitting that the pain was taken care of, right? So this is just another illustration of how deep these addictions can run with people. This is something that was depressing me, causing me to have serious anxiety in my life. I was scared and terrified that I was going to live and die with this pain in my groin. And I was a young man. I was only 28, 29 years old. Had my whole life in front of me, right? But that's how addicted I was to these painkillers. I was nervous about getting the surgery and the pain actually being corrected for fear of getting the narcotics taken away from me because I didn't have the pain anymore. Isn't that bad? Anyway, so eventually I go and I get this surgery. And of course, whether the pain went away or not, that was something I had to wait a few weeks to really be able to determine that, because when they cut you open, there's definitely some acute pain for the next several weeks, more like 4 to 6 weeks after having a procedure like that. And I was out of work, for a month and a half or so. And so the pain was, pretty bad there for a while, but I was cool with that. I had plenty of good drugs to keep me occupied. And so after about a month and a half, I had a follow-up visit with the surgeon who actually, did the surgery on me, performed the surgery. And by this point, I had started to see that I'm not really feeling that specific pain down in my groin area anymore, right? And this is a good thing, right? It's a good thing for me on a personal level, but from the perspective of a drug addict, it's not a good thing. And I was terrified to tell this surgeon that, yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much. I'm good. And so I didn't. And so when I went in, I told him, I don't know, it hasn't made the pain go away. The pain's still there, and this was just a general one follow-up appointment with the surgeon. After a particular surgeon does some sort of procedure on you, you go and see them a couple of times after just to make sure that you're healing and stuff like that. But he wasn't going to be like my ongoing physician or anything like that. He was a surgeon, so I only saw this guy a couple of times. But I told him that, no, it didn't work. I was still having the pain, and he basically was like, I'm sorry, I did what I could. I snipped a nerve down in there. I think at this point it's safe to say that you're having like some phantom pain or something like that, maybe. And, we talked about, getting with the doctor on, seeing about maybe getting something like an SSRI or something for depression, because there's times that certain medications can disrupt pain signals that have been circulating consistently to a specific area. And a lot of times, even though it wouldn't seem like a antidepressant medication should help with physical pain is only a manifestation of chemicals, and that's what physical pain is. So when you break it down like that, it really does start to make sense that sometimes SSRIs can help with physical pain sensations. So we talked about that with him, whatever. And went back to the pain clinic at that point, told them that I was still having the pain. We agreed that I would just stay on the medications that I was on. So this went on for, so at this point, let me break it down. At this point, I'm lying, all right? At this point, I don't have the pain in my groin anymore. Let me back that up. I've had 2 surgeries in that particular spot. So I've always had a little sensitivity there. Like, I'd hate to get, and I take kickboxing and stuff like that, and I'm, I don't spar all that much these days because I'm terrified that I'm going to get kicked or hit in that area because I'm very sensitive on that left side of my groin, including my left testicle. That's right. I said that. Including my left testicle. Now, don't get me wrong, everybody's testicles are sensitive. I get that. But my left testicle is significantly more sensitive than my right testicle, to the point where if a woman ever tried to mess with my left testicle and was getting frisky and, during oral sex and wanted to go to it, I literally would like, whoa, I didn't want her to touch my left testicle. That's how sensitive my left testicle is because of, the hernia trauma and surgeries that I've had in that general area. So at this point, I'm lying. I'm telling them that I'm still having the pain in my groin. That's not true. At this point, that severe acute pain that I was having is gone. But I don't want to tell them that because I know that they're going to take my drugs away from me. So I'm under the care of this pain clinic for like 5-6 months, whatever. And, I've shared the fact that my mother takes prescription medications as well for pain. She's had a couple of back surgeries, was in an accident that affected her back and stuff like that. So she's always taking some sort of narcotic for pain, albeit she doesn't abuse them, at least from what I know, at least from what I understand, she doesn't abuse them. But I always thought this was weird, but you can go to a pharmacy and pick up someone else's prescription. I always thought that was strange, but you can do that. And for whatever reason, I had something going on and wasn't able to leave work or whatever and pick up this prescription. So I asked my mom to go to this pain clinic and pick up this prescription for me. And, my mom and I have that kind of relationship. She was fine with it. She knew I was getting them legally. She was very, very aware of the pain that I've been experiencing and stuff like that. So she supported me with this, but she also knew that I had some issues with narcotics. So it was one of those things where they're kind of watching. They're like, we don't want to take this opportunity to get free of this pain away from him. We're his parents, we love him, but at the same time, I know they were always watching, kind of like, yeah, we know what your situation with opiates, because they had caught me stealing their opiates before, so obviously they knew. So my mom goes to pick these medications up for me, and I don't remember if I was at work or somewhere else. My mom calls me, and the tone of her voice. Okay, let me back up. When I say she goes to pick these medications up to me, you can't get something like Percocet called into the pharmacy. So she had to go to the pain clinic. They give her like a written prescription or whatever, and then she was going to the pharmacy anyway to get some stuff filled. We used the same pharmacy, so she took my prescription. She was going to take my prescription with her and just get it filled at the same time. And then when I got off work later, I was going to go pick the prescription up myself. So that's what was happening. So she calls me, and I can tell by the sound of her voice, she says something in the effect of, we've got some problems. And I was like, what? So what happens is, recently, like maybe a month before that, when I've been to my, because when you're at a pain clinic, they see you kind of on a regular basis. I don't remember if it was monthly or every couple of months, maybe every 3 months, something like that. But they see you pretty regularly because they're giving you these heavy narcotics. They want to keep a tab on how you're, taking these narcotics and making sure that you're not abusing them. She calls me and she's like, we got a problem. And I was like, what is it? And she said that the prescription came in an envelope, right? And she opened up the envelope, had to open up the envelope to get the prescription out because she's dropping off my prescription at the pharmacy for me. And she said there was a letter on letterhead with the prescription of Percocet. Instead of 90 Percocets, they had written me a prescription for 30 Percocets. And in the letter, it talked about how in my last drug test or my blood test, they detected other medications within my blood, including Darvocet, which I had had some of those from my parent. Okay, so let me retract what I said earlier. See, that's what I'm telling you. I'm remembering this stuff like as I'm telling it, and I've never really told this story. So apparently, Darvocets were not discontinued at this point, not yet, because they actually found Darvocet in my blood test. And so when a pain clinic is prescribing you oxycodone, if you're taking them like you're supposed to, then why would you also have Darvocet in your system? And that also means that you're getting the medications from somewhere else. They didn't know where I had been getting them, but they knew what showed up in my blood work. And she reads out this letter to me, and I'm sitting there on the phone going, well, that sucks, you know. And that's how I got kicked out of the pain clinic. And so basically, when the pain clinic finds out that you're abusing the medications that they're giving you, that says to them that, you know, we can't be held liable for that. We can't see you anymore. We can't support what you're doing anymore, because we're giving you this, and then you're not only taking what we're giving you, but then you're going and getting other stuff from other places, and we can't control that, and we can't assure that you're not going to drop dead from, you know, respiratory suppression in the middle of the night, and then your family's going to come sue the pain clinic because we were giving you oxycodone. You know what I mean? So for them, this is a risk factor of continuing to see me and support me, so they wouldn't. And so I lost my steady prescription with the pain clinic in this way. And so I'm up to the point at this point in my life, the first time that I actually went somewhere and got some help. And I actually went to a rehab center, and, you know, went to some meetings, got some help with like some Suboxone and stuff like that for a little bit. This is the one of 2 times that I've gone and sought out professional help for opiate addiction. And I'm going to go into, in my next video, how this played out, you know. And I was in there for a little while, and I wouldn't say that I ever really, truly got clean. It's just been, you know, I've been from one branch to another. You know, it was now I was off opiates for a little while. Yeah, I was just snorting Adderall and taking enough Adderall at a time to stay up for 3 days straight. That's it. No big deal. You know, I was off of opiates though. I was off of those opiates. You know, and you know, and I ended up getting back on the opiates, and I'm going to go into all that as well. That happened, you know, a little ways down the road. But I'm going to tell, you know, my story about when I went to rehab, then putting me on Adderall, when I was in rehab. It's funny how you go into rehab and you see a doctor who is supposedly helping you get clean, but then to help you get off of the opiates, they give you something that you then go and abuse just as badly as you abuse opiates. And that was Adderall for me. So I'm going to talk about that. I appreciate you guys watching the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you've been watching. You know, it's free content. All I ask is if you're watching, if you enjoy this sort of format, you know, a guy who shares some things that are in common with you, and you have some similarities with, and you enjoy watching this and hearing these stories, and it reminds you that you're not the only one that has done stupid shit in active drug addiction, and just subscribe. That's all I ask. You know, a handshake will do. That's all I ask. It's kind of like you see that, you know, that jar at the front of the store by the cash register. You know, take the candy, but please leave a quarter. You know, you don't want to take the candy and then just keep your quarters in your pocket and walk out. You know, I mean, nobody's gonna say anything. Nobody's gonna call you for it. You know, but be a man. You know, be honest, or maybe not. I'm sure I'm talking to a bunch of drug addicts, so maybe the honesty policy is way down here on your list. I don't know. It depends on where you are. You know, but subscribe to the channel. And I appreciate you guys checking me out once again. This is Corey. I will see you next time. All right, peace, guys.